In business, you expect competition, but you never expect it from the people you trust the most. I built my company from the ground up, with nothing but loyalty, sacrifice, and more sleepless nights than I can count. But on the day of that one board meeting, I learned a hard lesson. Loyalty doesn't live in the boardroom, because that was the day I was betrayed. Business has always been my passion. It's what I live and breathe. I wasn't born into money or privilege. I had to build everything I have with pure persistence, a lot of late nights, and an unwavering belief in what I was doing. When I first started my company, it was just me, a big dream, and a tiny handful of people who believed in me. Among them was my sister, my most trusted partner, my right hand. Together, we took a small, scrappy startup and turned it into a brand that people respected. For years, we were inseparable. We worked side by side, a perfect team. She handled the numbers, making sure we were financially sound, and I handled the vision, pushing us forward into new territory. And when we finally reached that peak of success, the investors, the fancy offices, the industry recognition, I genuinely thought we had made it together. I was so proud of what we'd accomplished, but I was wrong. So very wrong. Success changes people. Sometimes it changes them faster and more profoundly than failure ever could. It started subtly, with whispers in the hallway, private meetings I wasn't invited to, and board discussions that were conveniently kept off my calendar. I tried to ignore it, telling myself I was just being paranoid. Then, one day, my assistant, bless her heart, accidentally forwarded me an email thread she wasn't supposed to see. The subject line? Leadership restructure. And the main person driving the conversation was my own sister. In the cold, sterile language of the corporate world, leadership restructure meant only one thing: getting rid of me. Pushing me out of the company I had poured my entire life into. I wanted to believe it was a huge misunderstanding. I had to. So I confronted her that night in the office, the city lights twinkling outside our window. I remember my voice trembling as I asked, "You're not really doing this, are you?" She just sighed, this calm, cold expression on her face that I didn't recognize. "It's what's best for the company," she said without a trace of emotion. I let out a bitter laugh. The company? The company we built together from nothing? She didn't respond. She just turned her back and walked away, leaving me standing there in the silence of the office we once dreamed of. The next morning was the board meeting. I walked in, my heart pounding in my chest, still desperately clinging to a tiny thread of hope. Maybe I had been wrong. Maybe she would do the right thing. But as I looked around the table, the board members, people I had hired, mentored, and trusted, couldn't even meet my eyes. When the vote came, the room went completely silent, and then, one by one, the hands went up, all in favor of removing me as CEO, even hers. Her hand went up, just like the rest of them. The motion passed, and just like that, it was over. I was out. I remember walking out of that glass-walled room, looking through the windows at the city skyline. This was the very dream I had built, and now it felt like it belonged to someone else. I felt completely hollow, like my soul had been scooped out. The days that followed turned into weeks. The company I created moved on without me. My name was scrubbed from the walls, erased from the website, and removed from the headlines. It was as if I had never existed. But what they couldn't erase, what they couldn't take from me, was my spirit. I took time to heal. It wasn't easy. I had to process the grief, the anger, the shock. I needed to understand what happened, and in that quiet, painful process, I realized something incredibly powerful. When people betray you, they don't take your talent. They don't take your drive or your vision. They just reveal their own character. And that was a lesson I would carry with me. So, I started again. This time, I started smaller, quieter, but so much stronger. I gathered a new team around me, not based on their resumes, but on their character. I built new ideas, and this time, I chose people who valued trust over titles. People who understood that loyalty is the foundation of any real success. Months later, my new venture started to catch attention. People noticed what we were doing. Old investors started calling again. Clients who had worked with me before came back, happy to find me. And soon enough, the growth of my new company completely overshadowed the company I had lost. We were building something authentic, something real. Then one day, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her, my sister. It just said, "Can we talk?" When we met, she looked nothing like the confident, powerful executive she had become. Her company was struggling. Key investors had pulled out, the market had turned, and the board, the very same board that had helped her oust me, had now turned against her. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, the picture of defeat. "I thought I was doing the right thing," she whispered, her voice cracking. I just nodded slowly. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt a strange sense of clarity. "You thought success came from power," I said softly. "But real, lasting success comes from people. It comes from trust. I didn't take revenge. I didn't need to. In a way, life, or maybe karma, had already done what I couldn't. The consequences of her actions had found their way back to her. Now my new company thrives, but it doesn't thrive because of greed or ruthless ambition. It thrives because of gratitude, respect, and a shared vision. I lead not as a boss who dictates from on high, but as someone who remembers, every single day, what betrayal feels like. That boardroom, that betrayal, it once broke me, but it also built me. It forged me into someone stronger, wiser, and unshakably true to myself. And for that, in a strange way, I am grateful. Thank you for listening to my story. If this resonated with you, please consider subscribing. There are more stories and lessons I'd love to share.